Welcome back, football fans. Going to be talking some more draft today. It's the Football Grump again, and no videos today, just lists. I'm just going to be going through my cornerback rundown for 2023. I went through and I've analyzed just about every corner that I plan to for this draft, and I've put them in order. I'll have an official. They're separated by like day 1, day 2, day 3, and then kind of like early, middle, late. Right before the draft actually happens in a couple of weeks, I'll see if I can release like a full official big board. That's kind of my goal. And at that time, they'll have actual positions. But for now, this is kind of where we're standing. And I don't want to waste any more time with bullshit. So let's keep going. Day 1 guys. I only have 3 solid day 1 guys: Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, and Joey Porter Jr. Gonzalez and Witherspoon might be 2 of the best corner prospects I've seen come out in a while, with the exception of Sauce Gardner, who might be the best that I've ever seen come out in the draft. Why do I have Gonzalez over Witherspoon? I've seen that flipped lately. I think it was that way before. I think it was always Gonzalez over Witherspoon, and Witherspoon's crept up. I like Witherspoon more, actually. But to me, when I look at this, I think Gonzalez is just a safer one. Right now, Witherspoon is very aggressive. He's super sticky, really, really big hand combatant. And while I personally appreciate those traits more, I think those traits are more valuable. I think they do more things. Christian Gonzalez is just calm, patient, smooth, natural. I just think he's going to get penalized more, and I think he's going to transition to the NFL game just fine. Witherspoon, I mean, I'm coming from a Giants background. I think Witherspoon fits the Giants better. It's a very aggressive system that forces guys into man coverage. And they don't even necessarily have to be lockdown man corners because it's predicated on blitzing and disguising packages. And so they just have to be good enough to confuse the quarterback for X amount of seconds before pressure hits. And so that stickiness, that grabbiness that he has is likely to be less accentuated in that system where he doesn't need to be in coverage for a very long time, theoretically. But I think overall at the NFL level, I think Gonzalez is slightly safer. Either way, both of these guys are rock solid picks. Joey Porter, I have a little bit further down. He had a lot of trouble with Charlie Jones. I think he's going to have a lot of trouble with shiftier wide receivers when he has them matched up against him. I don't think that it's going to be super detrimental to the point where he is not still a very good lockdown man cover corner. I think also he's a big hitter that I really, really like. He's got extra length to him. He's exceptionally tall at 6'2", with 34-inch arms is insane. Runs an insane 40 time at 4.46. But he's a lot better in blitzing situations and in run support than I would say Christian Gonzalez. He has different, attributes that I like. But I do think he's going to struggle a little bit more shiftier guys than the other 2. I still think he's a first-round guy. Switching over to day 2 guys, this is where I think like a lot of the quality corners can be found. Personally, I don't love drafting corners in the first. I think it's nerve-wracking. It's a very, very difficult position to adjust to at the NFL level. I think a lot of guys, it's heavily predicated on confidence, and I think a lot of guys end up failing by being forced into being needed earlier than they're ready. I also think that depending on the scheme they come out of in college or the conference they come out of college may require more it might require more time, more training, more experience at the NFL level in order to adjust. And if guys get thrust into a starting role too quickly, I think it could damage their confidence. I think it could damage their careers. But in general, I think just like fans, what you want out of a first-round pick, not even as fans, as a general manager, what you want out of a first-round pick, obviously, is a quality player that's going to be franchised for a long time. But, I mean, in today's NFL, there is a heavy weight placed on will he be contributing day 1 or not. And so, you end up getting like a year or 2 less of that rookie deal, et cetera. Just drafting cornerbacks is very tricky to me. I think you have to balance all of those things. So this year, I find to be a lot of the quality guys here in the second round. right off the bat, Deonte Banks, he might even go in the first round. I have him graded as being like fringe day one talent. He's got the length. He's got the arms. 31-inch arms to me is good enough, especially when you run a 4.35 40. I think you can cover up that extra inch of ground with your quickness and speed. I like Deonte Banks a lot. And, contrary to Joey Porter, he had no trouble blanking Purdue's Charlie Jones. In fact, I have clips for Charlie Jones that I'm planning to cut up or whatever. That Purdue-Maryland game was one that I tried to pull clips from, and I think there's only like 3 catches in there from that game because Deonte Banks blanked him. I think that he has different things he needs to... First of all, his measurements are not the same as Joey Porter, so he falls based on that. I think he also struggles with more complicated routes. I think the more start and stops, the more steps to the route, the more he struggles. I think also if he goes against really, really sharp cutting wide receivers, I think he can lose his separation, or I guess separation can be gained on him. I think he just needs a little bit more experience. I don't think that's going to be super detrimental, but I also don't think he's going to be Sauce Gardner. Kelee Ringo is somebody that fell quite a bit since the beginning of the year, the beginning of the college season, I should say, but he's another one with insane measurables. 31-inch arms is good enough when you run a 4.36 40. 6'2", 207 is massive. My biggest thing here, I think that he seems to react a little bit more than he anticipates, and I think playing on a team where they're not so dominant on just the defensive line is going to cause him to struggle a little bit. There's going to be an adjustment there. I think also he was heavily penalized, like a lot. That's not going to get any better at the NFL level. In fact, it might even get worse as things can be called closer at the NFL level than at the college level. I think he's still going to be pretty good. He might need to earn that spot year one, but he'll eventually get there. My favorite guy, and I've been on this train for quite a while. First discovered him just watching games. I think I was actually trying to watch Quentin Johnston, but Tre'Vius Hodges-Tomlinson is the kind of talent that would be a day one talent had it not been for his measurables. It's just a shame that he is only 5'8". But I mean, I'm going to talk about other guys in this video. At 5'8", 178 pounds is pretty good weight. So, I mean, he is not one of those guys that's like, I have concerned about him being too light or whatever. It's just, he's just small. He's just small, and he's going to have trouble with that. And I don't know what you do with somebody like this, because if he were 3 inches taller with 3-inch longer arms at 5'11" with 31-inch arms, he would be a day one pick to start on the outside. And I don't think anyone would argue with me on that. But he's not. And that's not the case, and therefore we are where we are. But really fluid footwork, really good understanding of routes. He's got really good timing. He's aggressive. He does not sit back and let throws come to him. He will jump routes. He is really good hand-eye coordination, really good timing on breaking up passes. For him, my only real things on correcting it, sometimes I see him in coverage, he gets his whole body turned around as a reaction. That shit's got to stop. And I think also he does a good job of using his hands throughout the route, but sometimes can grab and pull just a little bit too much for my liking at separation points. I don't know what you do with a guy like him. I wonder if he is just a guy you can switch over to the slot. If that's the case and it's like a no big deal thing, I think he might be one of the best slot corners in the league, I guess. At least from a man cover standpoint. He does struggle taking on blocks, and that's going to be an issue for him in run support. But if he can learn how to slip underneath blocks and use his height to his advantage, and maybe just how to use leverage to his advantage, to just kind of like one jab and then kind of dip underneath movement, he might be okay. But as far as like being a willing tackler, a downhill guy, he's that guy. So you don't have to worry about the mentality there. You really just have to worry about getting the technique somewhere where he can be effective. Tyreek Stevenson is someone that I think is really, really good. I see him all over draft boards. And admittedly, I don't pay a lot of attention to those. Mine is the only one I really care about. At least up until the week of the draft. Then I start paying more attention to them. But I think he's got all the great measurements. He's a big guy, 6 feet, 200 pounds, 32-inch arms. He's got a good 40 time of 4.45. Saw him at the Senior Bowl. Saw him do well, even though he was dealing with a nagging lower body thing that was bothering him in between reps. He was still winning his one-on-one man coverage things, his drills. I think he's a developmental starter in a man cover system. My biggest thing is that I think, at least at Miami, it seemed like he overestimated his speed and his closing speed, and he got a little lost. And he got burned bad a couple of times. And that's not even gambling. I think that's just maybe just working that out of him. Like, you're not quite as good of an athlete. I guess you're not head and shoulders better athlete than everybody else around you anymore, which maybe he was prior to that. Probably was. Julius Brents is another one that I see a lot of people salivating over, and it's easy to see why. He's got a length like nobody else. He's got edge rusher arm length at 34-inch arms. 6'3" height is insane. He's got a really good 40 time at 4.5 speed. And he's sticky in coverage. If you look at his Kansas State tape, they don't play him in man as often as I would like. I think at the NFL level, a team that takes him is not going to be a zone defensive system. I think it will be a man cover system, or at least it should be, if you want the most out of your pick. I think for him, it's going to be experience. I think playing in a system that doesn't utilize his length and speed and his man coverage ability has held him back from where he's going to be in an NFL level. I think he needs to work on stuff. Like, he can get lost in coverage downfield sometimes. I think also he has a tendency to overcommit, over pursue. And this happens in all aspects of the game. This could be in following a running play or just following a ball carrier. It could be in coverage. It could not be in coverage. I do think he can overrun some stuff. And you can just be over-aggressive. And I think it just needs to come with some better angles, some better coaching, etc. And I think there's going to be a huge jump in coaching from Kansas State to the NFL level. I don't know if he's ever going to be a CB1. For whatever that means. But I see a ton of upside here. That's what I see. Emmanuel Forbes is someone that, I think it was Dane Brugler has him as like a round one guy. Not me, man. First, what we were talking about before with Hodges Tomlinson at 178, 5'11". Here's a 6'1" guy at 166, and you can tell. You look at him, and he looks like loose copper wire on the ground. I don't know. He looks like he's going to get hurt sooner than Hodges Tomlinson, in my opinion. Otherwise, I mean, I see why, right? And I do have him as a day two guy. That's not an insult, I don't think. 4.35 speed, 6'1" height, 32-inch arms. These are all really, really good measurables. It's the 166 that's killing me. On top of that, I think I could look past that. I think he would still be a very high pick. He'd be much further up on my board if it were just that. But I think there is a clear lack of strength there that shows up on film, and that's not going to cut it. And I think also his footwork is clunky at times. And it's hard to tell, but it looks like the quickness may just be average. And I think when you have something you can't improve upon, like maybe your foot speed or whatever, you should get rid of all the things that are not good that you can control. So I would like to see him hit the weight room hard. For me, for that reason, he is a big upside pick as well. But I think that when you add strength, there's still a mentality thing there with him. I don't know that the strength is going to show up unless he decides he's going to be a hitter and he's going to be more aggressive and punch more, and be a little bit more downhill. And so that's why I have him behind Julius Brents, where I can see him with his upside as being his length. He can get those extra shoestring tackles and things like that. I also think that Emmanuel Forbes' 4.35 speed may start to suffer as he adds strength weight to his frame. And that takes away from another trait that he has that actually is a plus column. So I don't really know how I feel about Emmanuel Forbes, but it's not fantastic. It's certainly not as good as everybody else. Cam Smith is a dude from South Carolina that I see a lot of people connect to the New York Giants. I think he's actually going to be a little bit better in an off-man coverage system than a man coverage system. I think he is a gambler. I think that he has some clumsy footwork that shows up when he is trying to stay lockstep with guys, where I think if he's in a zone or an off-man coverage system, he can utilize the traits that he has to his advantage, like his 4.3 speed, He has good closing speed. He can bait. He's a very good gambler. He knows how to space things out to utilize his timing just right to jump routes. He has a really good hand-eye coordination at the catch point. I think if you want the most out of him, you put him in an off-man system or a zone system where he can be a turnover like differential maker. But I don't know that he fits what the Giants are going to run. So I feel a little bit less good. I mean, also, when it comes to man coverage stuff, that's where you see like some of the negative traits with him being like overly grabby, and his footwork can get all jumbled up when he's trying to stay lockstep with guys. I think when he's able to kind of sit or just stay off and not have to react too quickly is where he's kind of safe. I really like Kayubu Kelly from Stanford. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. I continued to like him there. I think that, while he had trouble with Jordan Addison, I think that plenty of corners, even at the NFL level, are going to have trouble with him as well. The biggest thing is going to be his recovery. I don't think his recovery speed is there. He runs a fast 40. He's a fast player, 4.5 speed, but I think if he gets beat, he's not going to be able to make it up. And that's going to be a problem. But I think he's always going to be like a CB2 or maybe even like a CB3, like your nickel or dime corner. That might just be who he is. But with that, he's a very good man cover corner without being very grabby at all. He mirrors Christian Gonzalez in that way. I don't think he's going to get you a ton of penalties. Certainly there's examples of him doing this, but as a general thing, I don't think he's going to be a heavily penalized corner in the NFL. And I think he's still going to afford you some good man coverage stuff. So, using the context of the Wink Martindale Giants defense, he's the kind of guy who can give you man cover results for the 3 seconds that you need to get pressure to the quarterback, get him off of his base or out of the pocket or underneath some bodies, or just with his eyes down, looking at the line instead of looking downfield. I think he'll be able to do that for you. And to me, that's a perfect nickel corner. DJ Turner was one of the hardest ones I had to look at. Because on paper, I think that he's probably really, really good. Played at a big school, a school that won. He's got the measurables, 5'11" height, nearly 31-inch arms. His 40 time is absolutely bonkers. 4.26 40 time is crazy. I don't know, man. I'm not really high on DJ Turner because outside of those measurables, I see a lot of problems. No, he can stay in the hip pocket well, but that's really just that's just speed being speed. Once guys are no longer running like go routes or like one cut routes, he has a lot of trouble staying with guys when they cut laterally. Like, especially if it's a nice sharp cut that stays parallel to the line of scrimmage. That's where the separation comes. Now, you'd think with 4.26 speed, separation shouldn't be too much of an issue, but it kind of is. Because if you notice with him, it takes a really long time for him to hit that 4.26 speed. It's like 5 or 6 strides. So if he's matched up against a guy who is similar speed, if he's beat just like everybody else. His catch-up speed is not good enough. He just doesn't get to that mile per hour fast enough. And even if he does catch up, whoever he's lagging behind is going to be open enough for a big gain, whether he catches them or they run for a touchdown. In addition, his run support he tackles like a vagina. He barely puts any sort of effort into running up. He's certainly a responsible in run support, keeps his gap lane, sets the edge fine, but he's just not a guy that you can see wants to hit anybody. It doesn't look like it to me, and it's certainly something I look at. I think that DJ Turner might end up being a special teams guy for a couple years, and if he never pans out at the corner position, that just might be where he's at. I don't know. Day 3 guys. Jacorian Bennett from Maryland, somebody I really, really, really like. He's got adequate measurables, nearly 32-inch arms, 5'11" height. The speed is 4.3 40. I mean, crazy. Really, really good at the catch point. I think he plays the ball well. He's a little bit more reactive than instinctive. It doesn't really feel like he's a natural for the position. Kind of feels like he's feeling it out. He might be somebody that maybe transitions to free safety or something. I'm not really sure. But like his coverage skills are, I think he just needs experience. I think he needs better coaching. I think he needs time. He gets a little grabby. He's a little reactionary. I think if he utilizes the traits that he has, he can develop into something pretty good. I'm not really sure how much of that is that and how much of that is just he's not good. But either way, once you're getting to day 3, you're looking at guys you can develop or have special teams value. He certainly has special teams value with his measurables alone. I think there's upside there to develop him into at least a depth guy. I think you might even get some starter reps out of him. Clark Phillips from Utah. Not a big fan. He's got like the same height issues as Hodges Tomlinson, but half the coverage ability. He could be, I don't know that his athleticism is good enough to make up for his measurable problem. And I don't have his 40 time down, and I think that's because he didn't run it at the pro day, at the combine. That's an issue for me. I think my personal thought is that he's going to have to get stronger and he should move to the inside. I don't think that he has the speed and quickness to be on the outside at all. I think he might even struggle on the inside. I also just don't think he's a very good tackler. I don't know. I just personally, when I look at Clark Phillips, I see every other short corner that was like pretty good in college, just pretty good. I don't see anything real special there, and so I just see bad measurables. Cam Mitchell from Northwestern, on the other hand, I actually really like. I like the idea of him being in the slot. 5'11", 191. He's got 4.47 speed. He's a physical, willing tackler. He's got some weight to him. I think that his tackling angles are poor, and it leads to missed tackles. It's not that he's a bad tackler. I guess he is a bad tackler, but it's correctable. It's not like he comes in with bad form. He comes in at a bad angle, and he's not hitting square on a lot of times. I think his cushion in off coverage is too much at times. There's some development that needs to happen there. I still think he's an early day 3 guy. He's got some stuff that he's gonna have to work out, but I think he can match up against tight ends in the slot. Or just in general, he can match up against tight ends, and that's an asset in today's NFL game. Tight ends are wrecking the league in certain spots. Darius Rush, he's a converted wide receiver. Saw him at the Senior Bowl too. He's very, very hit or miss. I think it's a lot of development there, a lot of upside. It's a lot of risk as far as I'm concerned. To me, no matter what, you're getting a day 1 special teams guy, so you take that for whatever it's worth. But I'm not... I think he needs a lot of experience, especially with complicated routes. I think he struggles to recognize and mirror those. I think also converted from wide receiver, I think his hips are pretty tight. I don't think that's been worked out of him yet. I think there's still a lot that needs to happen, but there's flashes of him doing well here that you can work with, if you're willing to. But I do think you get a day 1 special teams guy that's like a special teams standout. I'm going to try and not spend too much time on the day 3 guys going down the line here, but there's 2 guys I do want to talk about, and that is Eli Ricks from Alabama. Here's another one. This was difficult for me because I'm not really entirely sure why he didn't get a ton of playing time at Alabama. I think he's pretty good. 6'2", 188. He's got 32-inch arms. I think he's got good use of hands along the route, good hand-eye coordination. I think he attacks about the catch point pretty well. I think in the limited action he saw, he was pretty productive. Sure, he needs to add some weight, strength, whatever. 188 is a bit light for me at 6'2". I'd like him at 200. So we're talking about 10, 15 pounds of muscle here. He's another one that struggles with lateral separation with consistency. I think he's got to get that down. I think he's got to be ready to move side to side a little bit more. And better route runners can spin him completely around, which is a problem. I think he's a developmental outside guy who can be solid depth and can be had pretty late. Mekhi Blackman, I don't really want to talk about. Not very impressive. Not a willing tackler, and it shows up. Riley Moss is the guy I want to talk about because this is frustrating. He's got great length. He's got a great 40 time, 4.45 speed, 6'1", 193. I think he has trouble tracking the ball. And to me, that's catastrophic. I've seen plenty of evidence of him getting lost in coverage while trying to track the ball. It's pretty consistent. An inability to track the ball in coverage might be too damning for me, because if you're in good coverage and there's nothing you can do, it comes down to either you're not going to play the ball at all, or you're going to try and play the ball and potentially lose the guy in coverage, and you're almost useless to me, which is frustrating. I don't know if that can be coached out of him, or how long that kind of thing takes, but that's why Riley Moss dipped so far for me into day 3 here. That's pretty much it. Yeah, so that's my list of corners. DBs are kind of interesting. They're weird. A lot of times with draft stuff, guys who were corners in college are listed as safeties or just general DBs. I might have missed someone that someone tells me I really should check out, and I like them enough that I actually do a full write-up and insert them into this list. But until any of that kind of stuff happens, this is my list of corners for 2023. This is the order. Feel free to comment. Tell me what you think I'm right about, what you think I'm wrong about. If you have any questions about the guys I didn't, be sure to comment, or follow me on Twitter at @football_grump, Instagram as well. If you like this video, like it, please. Share it with other people. I just started this channel, so trying to build it up a little bit. Subscribe if you like this show. If you're a Giants fan, check out my Giants show, Just Giants. The link's in the description below. And I'll see you guys next time.